Oh yeah, what's going on guys, this is Coach Eeks, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about the 3 most broken champions for each role for patch 12.11, and if you didn't already know, the changes have, well, they've kind of been released, the alleged ones anyway, but they'll probably 99% go through. They got released on Twitter a few days ago, and we're going to go through exactly what the changes are, and the 3 champions for each role who they're going to make busted. Now, of course, these are predictions, so if you have your own predictions on who's going to be broken, maybe we suggest a champion who you think is going to be toilet tier, let us know in the comment section, and of course, if you want to master any of the champions, guys, all the roles on the Rift, make sure you check out the GameWeave website in the description, in the comment section. You will 100% improve because our content, it's original, it's fresh, made by the best players and coaches around the world. So get that exclusive access by signing up. And without further ado, let's get in to the countdown. Now, let's start with the 3 most broken top laners, guys, for 12.11. And the first one coming in at number 3, this is Kayle. And you might be like, but Kayle, lethal tempo is getting nerfed for ranged champions. So the attack speed is going down by 2%, but the range is staying the same. And think about it for Kayle. In the top lane where champions are going to be tankier, getting to max stack should be a lot easier, especially in this durability meta, which isn't changing. So that's still going to be good. I think a lot of people are just overestimating how impactful this is going to be because you're still going to get the extra range. And once you get to level 11, level 16, which is way more doable because of the durability changes, Kayle is still going to be strong. Even if Riftmaker is losing 10 AP, you're still getting the extended trade out of the item. That's the key to it. And once you get Nash's Tooth and a Death Cap, Kayle is still going to reign supreme, but maybe not as supreme as the champion coming in at number 2 in the top lane, this being Jax. And for Jax next patch, with Divine Sunderer remaining unchanged and with more HP in the game because tank items are getting buffed, there's 100 more HP in Chemtank, Frostfire, and Sunfire. This is going to be unreal for Divine Sunderer Spellblade Jax. But also, Blade of the Rune King is getting buffed where you're getting more lifesteal for the same amount of gold, which is super nice as well. So for Jax, the ultimate tank shredder, and next patch is going to be tankier, he has to be in consideration. And another champion who does actually like to build Divine Sunderer at the moment, beating Jax to number 1, is Fiora. But even if you're not going Divine Sunderer Fiora, which is probably the best way to go because champions have more HP because of the 12-10 changes, and also next patch, just like I mentioned for Jax in the top lane, champions are going to have more HP because of the tank item buffs. But if you're kind of old school and you want to go Gore Drinker, well, good news because Gore Drinker's mythic passive is giving you an extra 2 ability haste per major item you have, which is going to be great for your scaling in the late game. Lowering the cooldowns of all your abilities, really nice, but the real power of Fiora comes from her passive, the true damage based off the target's maximum HP. This is where she thrives, and in high elo, where the best Fiora players reside, she has over a 55% win rate, even if Death's Dance is losing a bit of the bonus AD in the healing passive, and even if more Malmortius' shield is going to be on a 75-second cooldown and not a 60-second cooldown. If you decide to go these items on Fiora, you will still have enough healing, especially if you go Gore Drinker, and the more Malmortius cooldown, you will still have it if you decide to go for team fights or 1v1 the enemy AB top laner. Super broken champion, she's the number 1 top laner. Now let's switch it up and head to the bot lane and talk about the 3 most broken AD carries for 12.11, and coming in at number 3 is a champion who is going to be affected just like Kayle by the lethal tempo nerf, this being Ashe. So the attack speed percentage, this going down, but the point is you're still going to get the extra range of max stacks, and for a champion like Ashe in a more durable meta, should be super easy to do, especially with your range and the slows from your auto attacks. But also for Ashe, an interesting build is to get a Blade of the Rune King in there, and because the lifesteal is getting buffed, this is going to be even better for you in 12.11. And this durability meta plays into Ashe's hands because her scaling is very good, and she pairs so well with the Enchantress supports who are very strong at the moment, so Janna's, so Lulu's. These champions make a great pairing with Ashe, so she is number 3. Now number 2 on the countdown, this is Jhin, and for Jhin in 12.11 with Gale Force Collector as your ideal setup, this is still going to be very strong in the majority of elos. Now I say the majority of elos because I still think Jhin really isn't that amazing. Like in Challenger in Korea, for example, he only has a 44% win rate. He just gives way too many other champions free lanes. So if you're blind picking Jhin, it might be risky. You allow stuff like Varus and Kalista to get picked into you, and these champions destroy him. But generally speaking, Jhin with his amazing utility, which got buffed a few patches ago, and because of his versatility, he works with a lot of supports, even if engaged supports aren't as strong as they once were. He's a very versatile AD carry and will work in pretty much every single game. So he's number 2, and the stats don't lie in terms of the high win rates. Now, one AD carry who might not have the highest win rate in the game, but he's played an awful lot. So that does say something about Lucian's 50-51% win rate. But the point is, Lucian is still so good because he's got extra scaling because of the buffs a few patches ago, into his attack damage per level, into his vigilance passive, the AD that scales off. This means that Lucian still has a strong early game, but he has a stronger late game as well. And because in this meta, games are going to go past 25-30 minutes a lot more often, this means that Lucian can actually dominate for longer as well. So Lucian for another patch is the number 1 AD carry. And for the next 3 champions, let's stay in the bot lane here, guys, and talk about the 3 best supports for 12-11, and one of these supports is actually getting nerfed next patch, and this is Senna. So what's happening for Senna is that your Q's base slow is going from 20% to 15%, and the Q slow duration you get, this is going to scale from 1 to 2 seconds instead of being a flat 2 seconds. So when you've got your 5 points in your Q, it will be 2 seconds again. So you will feel this drop off in slow duration in the early game, and there are also a couple of item nerfs we need to be aware of as well. So the first one is that Umbral Glaive is getting nerfed. So the actual like de-warding passive you get, this is going up by 5 seconds, so you won't be clearing as many wards. And as far as your mythic item Eclipse goes, this is getting nerfed. So for ranged champions, the damage proc from the passive is going to deal half of what it was dealing before. So it's going from 6% to 3% of the max HP. This is significant for ranged champions, so in the late game you'll be dealing less damage. But what's great about Eclipse is that you're getting 4 more lethality, so it's going from 18 to 22, which means you're still going to shred people, and because of the armor penetration passive, your scaling is still going to be there. So Senna is still going to be a very good support, and you might even consider playing her as an AD carry next patch, because the soul drop rate when you kill a minion, this is going up to 8.3% from just over 2%. So this opens up the marksman role for Senna as well. Now beating Senna to number 2 on the countdown, this is Renata, and the main reason Renata is here is just because she's innately very strong still. The ultimate, the poke you have with your Q and your E, the displacement with your Q, the shield from your E, and of course your W, which can keep your hyper carry AD carry like a Kog'Maw, like an Ashe, alive for longer during team fights. She is still going to be a great pick in 12-11, so that's why Renata is the number 2 support, but she is bested to the number 1 position by Janna. So a similar champion in terms of peeling your AD carry, but to be honest, Janna is probably just better at it. The insta ultimate, which knocks champions away, the E giving your AD carry extra attack damage, and because you'll be getting so many of these shields off during team fights because of the ability haste you'll have in the mid to late game, which you'll be hitting more often, it just makes Janna honestly too powerful. And because dive champions and engaged champions hate Janna because of your ultimate, because of your Howling Gale, it's such an annoying champion to actually dive into. So pretty much all of those champions are just ineffective at the moment because of the durability meta. So Janna, top tier support, the number 1. Now let's head to the mid lane, guys, and first of all talk about Kassadin, the 3rd best mid laner. And the reason Kassadin is here is because so many mages are popular right now. Assassins, especially attack damage assassins, have really fallen off. So for Kassadin, the mid lane has become a lot more free. And because you're such a scary level 16 champion, you'll be hitting that spike more often, which is great. But we do have to consider here, guys, that Everfrost is getting a big nerf in 12-11, so the root or the slow going down from 1.5 seconds to just 1 second. This is really big, but the great news for Kassadin is that Crown of the Shattered Queen is getting buffed, so more AP, and you can still decide to go Luden's Tempest if you wanted to, followed by Archangels or Zhonya's. It's actually a very successful setup in pretty much every single elo, so you definitely have other options there. But the point is, Kassadin still going to be a great champion, even better in 12-11, so that's why he's number 3. Now number 2, speaking of those AD assassins, this might surprise some of you, but I've put Qiyana on this countdown because the mid lane, to be honest, is probably going to be a lot more of an even playing field in 12-11 because of all the changes that are hitting the Rift. So what's going to be good for Qiyana? Why is she suddenly among the top 3 best mid laners? Well, the reason for this is because Prowler's Claw is getting 4 extra lethality, which is huge. But not only that, Serpent's Fang is getting 2 more extra lethality on top of this, and Axiom R 3 more lethality if you wanted to go this route. So anything to do with lethality, when this gets buffed, you have to think about champions like Qiyana, like Talon and Zed. But because Qiyana is probably just better than all of them, because assassinating people in 12-11 is a lot harder. That's why Qiyana is a bit more versatile, because she has AoE in her kit, and also survivability. Because of her brush Q, she's actually quite hard to kill still, and especially when she's played by the best, even in 12.10 without these lethality buffs, she still has super good win rates, so she might require a bit of mastering, a bit of mechanical skill and capacity, but once you actually get there, especially in 12-11 with these new buffs, she will be dominating the mid lane a lot more, especially with Everfrost getting nerfed and the super strong mid laners at the moment copping a few jabs. Now speaking of one of those super strong mid laners, Taliyah is probably still going to be the number 1 mid laner for the simple fact that she's still so good after Riot changed her a few patches ago, and even though she's getting nerfed next patch, so the monster damage from her E, this affects jungle Taliyah though, not mid lane Taliyah, but her ultimate can no longer be cast within 3 seconds of dealing damage. Now this is kind of big, because during team fights, skirmishes, whatever it may be, you can't get out of a situation, you can't trap the enemy champion trying to get away, so this means less kills, and this might even mean a few more deaths. But the fact you still have your wave clear, you still have your damage, your E is still going to stun champions with dashes, it's too broken. Even if Everfrost is getting nerfed just like Kassadin, you can bypass this, you can even go Liandry's if the enemy team is very tanky, even if Liandry's is getting nerfed a little bit, so in terms of the burns base damage, but you can also go Luden's Tempest, which I think is very effective because the magic penetration really comes into play, especially late game from the passive, because Abyssal Mask, Spirit Visage, both of these tank magic resist items, they're getting buffed in 12-11, so this will probably be the way to go for Taliyah, but she will still be the S+ mid laner. She is in 1210. And of course, the last role we have to talk about is the jungle role, and this really shouldn't take too long because the changes, well, they're not really that drastic. So for Viego, the third best jungler for 1211, the reason why Viego is here is because of Divine Sunderer with Blade of the Ruined King. Blade of the Ruined King getting buffed, very nice, and Divine Sunderer just being Divine Sunderer in a tanky meta. And if you are thinking of going Kraken Slayer Viego, well, bad news because Kraken Slayer's damage is getting nerfed. So this will be worse in 1211, so Divine Sunderer Viego becomes more viable. Now, number 2, in terms of the jungle role, this is Rengar. And for Rengar next patch, with lethality going up in the key items that he builds, so Duskblade, potentially Serpent's Fang, maybe even Axiom Arc if you're really snowballing, this makes the champion a heck of a lot better, and he's one of the few AD assassins in the game, kind of like Kiana, who's actually doing very well at the moment. So Rengar is number 2. But the number 1 jungler for 1211, well, it's actually kind of similar to Taliyah, because Wukong is also getting nerfed, so the W cooldown, this is going up to 22 seconds from 20 seconds at rank 1. Now for your W, you're probably only going to be using this once during a fight, during a gank, so honestly not really the biggest change in the world, but your E's monster damage is going down by 20%. But you will still have the clear speed with a Qmax especially to get through 5 camps before Scuttle Crab, to get through 3 camps to hit level 3 and gank a lane. Shouldn't really change anything, and because you're a champion with Conqueror and Divine Sunderer, you are going to froth 1211 almost as much as you're frothing 1210 currently. So he will be a little bit worse off, but he will continue to be the top jungler. The win rates at the moment across the board around 54%, way too good for him not to be number 1 for another patch. So those were the 3 best champions, guys, for each role for patch 1211. Let me know once again in the comment section whether you agree, disagree, think I'm drunk, whatever it is, let me know in the comments. And if you did enjoy the video, please remember to leave a like down below so we can keep making more of them. And until tomorrow's season 12 upload, this has been Coach. Peace.